It's a part 2. Watch part 1 if you want to, or don't, doesn't matter much.
If you chose to live by doctrines, demonic doctrines, and listen to the devil and live by this world and not of God, and there's a consequence for that, God doesn't love you?
Emmanuel, how many times do I have to repeat myself? It's part 2, so at least once more, hey? If the consequence is a firm scolding, then sure, maybe. If the consequence is infinite torture, then no. No, he doesn't. If a loving father's consequence for anything his child is capable of is torturing it forever, then he's not loving. Sorry. I don't see how you could possibly hear the phrase infinite torture and the word love and fit those two together nicely in your brain, unless your brain is really, really broken. Which, to be fair, is exactly what indoctrination into Christianity is designed to do, so...
If you own a house, and you have carpet, white carpet all around your house, and I decided to shit all over your carpets, and disobey every rule that you have in your home, maybe you give me a chance, maybe you give me another chance, maybe you give me another chance, but I never say sorry. I never go to you and try to tell you, hey, I never try to confess to you, so I'm gonna try to confess now. I'm so sorry, I keep shitting on your carpets. What would you do?
Well, since I'm God in this scenario, I'm all-knowing, so it'd be pretty silly to get mad. I already knew you were going to do that before I ever invited you in. But that aside, as an omnipotent God, I'd probably just make the shit disappear instantly by blinking my eyes with no effort, and then get on with my day. I mean, I wouldn't really bother getting annoyed about anything ever if nobody had the power to inconvenience me even slightly. But if I really didn't want the shit on my carpet at all, I'd probably just edit some earlier moment in the timeline to give the carpet a shit-proof force field before you ever shat on it. And, if you tried, I'd probably make your shit ignore gravity and smear all up your back the first time you try it, just for a laugh. That seems like a punishment that fits the crime. Why? What would you do, Emmanuel? Something more extreme? Shove a chainsaw in my asshole and out my mouth? I mean, that's still infinitely more loving of a response than putting me in hell, but they both seem like a little much, don't you think? By the way, I love that bit about going and confessing as if I'm taking a shit right in front of you deliberately to mess up your house. You realize the real scenario here is I'm just walking along minding my own business, and then some funny-sounding guy with dreadlocks and a tiny little beard runs up to me and goes, "Hey, why did you just shit in God's house?" To which I reply, I didn't. I haven't even taken a shit since yesterday, and there's no house around here for miles. And you go, "Yes, you did! You're always shitting on God's expensive white carpet! You do it every single day! And he was nice enough to invite you into his house, and you just keep shitting all over everything! Don't you know how hard that is for an all-powerful God to clean up? And you didn't even have the courtesy to go back to his house afterwards and confess and accept his sacrifice for you. Jesus died for your shits! I hope it hurts when Satan sets your asshole on fire in hell, you prick!"
Are you gonna just let it keep going and reward them? Are you gonna reward them with everything that they don't deserve?
Sure, if you consider the shit I smeared up their back a reward. Good luck cleaning that off. But of course, rewards aren't the topic here, are they? The topic is infinite torture in hell, and whether it's reasonable to believe that someone who wishes infinite pain on someone else still loves them. Like, if you regularly slap your own mother because she said something you didn't like, then I don't believe you love her, Emmanuel. And if you flat out tortured her, even if it's not forever, I'd go further and say that it seems like all you hold for her is hatred, and not a bit of love, and you're just a cruel bastard. But go ahead, Emmanuel. Keep thinking that expressions of the deepest hatred are what love looks like. Be the problem with our world. Ultimately, even if I think it makes you a shit individual, what you as an individual think doesn't much matter. But when so many people think like you do, it's no wonder this world can be such a nasty place at times. Out of every negative aspect of religion, this is the only one that really makes me sad sometimes.
God says, live this way if you want to. Follow me if you want to. These are the rewards for that. This is what you inherit for that. This is what will happen if you do. This is how your life will improve. This is how you will find out what you were meant to be, what I created you for. Your purpose. This is how you're going to be happy. This is how you're going to find happiness. Not only in the outside you're going to be happy in the inside, but your soul as well. This is how you save yourself. If you don't want to save yourself, can nobody save you, bro? If you don't want to save yourself, can nobody save you, bro?
Well, in your theology, God made it so you get sent to hell for nonsense, and he can unmake it just as easily. He's fully capable of preventing the torture of anyone he loves enough to want saved from it. So you're wrong, but listen to yourself, man. You're obsessed with rewards, with being handed life improvements and happiness and an inheritance, with having somebody else place a purpose upon you instead of creating one for yourself. And you present these wishes like they're the most important things there are, the most important things there possibly could be. You never grew out of the base instinctive selfishness, greed, and dependence that you find in toddlers. Emmanuel, did you ever think of trying to grow up a little bit and stop building your worldview solely on which beliefs are claimed to have the most purchasing power?
I'm not even talking to adults or nothing right now, bro. I'm talking, listen, I just thank the Holy Spirit. Oh man, I'm talking to my generation right now, because it's mostly my generation that I see saying stuff like that.
You're not talking to adults, you're talking to your generation. So you're not an adult? You look close enough. You have a beard. Well, part of one. You've had it for years. I don't know, maybe you just mean you're not legally an adult quite yet. Whatever, it works for me either way, because regardless, you're too old for me to not criticize when you're wrong on the internet. Anyway, if the people in your generation tend to say they don't believe the self-contradictory garbage you've been vomiting into your webcam, good for them. At least they're too smart for that.
Oh, God doesn't love me because he created hell, and I'm sorry that you don't want to hear that there's consequences to your actions. I am so sorry.
And I'm so sorry that you're incapable of distinguishing between a reasonable, proportionate consequence consistent with love and an unreasonable, disproportionate consequence that isn't. Say, I saw you have a bunch of videos about smoking weed. Great, whatever. But at least your loving father, the American legal system, will be glad to know that if you're ever given 10 years on a bullshit possession conviction, you'll just lay down and quietly accept it because, hey, my actions have consequences. And I trust that when you get out of jail 10 years later, you'll use your YouTube channel to convince everyone that my 10-year prison sentence was so merciful. Don't you see? The government really loves me. By all rights, I should have got the electric chair. Right? That's what you're gonna do, right? Or do you not believe your own bullshit?
I'm sorry that if you commit a crime out here, you go to jail. I'm sorry that you can't point your finger at yourself, because if I came to your house and shitted on every rule you had in here and disrespected your home, you would probably kick me out.
Yeah, sure, if it was really that bad, I'd kick you out, yeah. I wouldn't want to hang out with you, but I wouldn't take all your clothes and kick you out into the minus 30 degrees Celsius Canadian winter to turn into a naked popsicle. Do you not see any difference between those two things? I mean, you must not, because the difference between kicking you out of my house and sending you to burn in hell is infinitely larger, and you can't even see that difference.
You probably have some bad news for me. You probably not want to be my friend. You probably not want to associate with me, but you want God to associate with you and reward you with heaven when you lived your life by Satan.
No, I don't. I don't want anything from God. I don't even think he exists. But if he did exist, I still wouldn't expect him to be my friend and reward me. No, I'm perfectly happy for us to keep our distance. If he doesn't want my company, I don't want his. Fine. All I expect is that for me to believe he's all-loving, he doesn't burn my skin off for eternity. Is that such an unreasonable thing, Emmanuel, to expect from my dad who loves me? I want to know what's going on in your house that you think this is what a loving dad does.
But you want God to associate with you and reward you with heaven when you lived your life by Satan, by the rules and following what Satan did and being the rebellious child.
Oh, is there something wrong with being a rebellious child? Because last I looked, you had a video on your channel mocking your mother's anguish at finding out you smoke weed against her will. Here's a clip.
Now you want to die? Oh my God, I can't believe it.
I don't even want this Mother's Day gift anymore. I don't know you.
Mom, please calm down. It's all right.
Don't talk to me.
Please stop. Calm down. I'm good.
Hold on, it's over for me and my family. Do you even recognize me? Do you know who I am?
It's me. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm all right. Mom, it's an herb.
I think I'm high too.
So what do you think your mom should do, Emmanuel? Being the rebellious child should have consequences, right? So what do you propose? Disembowelment? Beheading? It's gotta be severe. She loves you, so she'll see that you need your punishment. Rebellious child.
You want to be rewarded for that, and I don't understand how that makes sense.
I know you don't understand it. You don't even understand the difference between reward and punishment, or that not everything is a dichotomy, or that there are degrees of punishment and proportionality. If you haven't even got that far, why would I expect you to understand anything more complicated than, happy baby colors?
Do you have parents? Do you own parents?
No, I'm pretty sure that's illegal these days.
Do you slap the fire out your mom and she gives you money after?
No, I don't slap my mom. Not even when she does something that really pisses me off. Because I love her, and in my opinion, you don't do that sort of thing to people you love. On the other hand, you should be just fine with it based on how you've been defending God's loving torture.
Well, what's going on in your house? I want to know.
Oh, come on now, Emmanuel. Out of the two of us, who's spent this whole video defending the unfathomable torture of beloved children by their father, and who's opposed it? If you really mean what you've been saying, I sincerely hope you never have a kid. Or even like a dog, for that matter. That thing will shit on your carpet at least once, and I don't want some poor innocent dog chucked in your furnace. Although I have to say, if you were face to face with the reality of what this kind of horror would actually look like, I don't think you'd stand by a goddamn thing you've said. My guess is you're better than that. You seem nice enough, and the anti-human stuff you say seems to come more from a lack of intelligence than a surplus of evil, so I'm actually not too worried.
Because God is all our parent, right? God is our father. God is the father to your parents, to your grandfathers, to us, to everybody. God is the father. The only way to God is through Jesus Christ. And you're going to sit here and tell me that if you disobey everything and don't live out your purpose and choose not to follow God or anything, you want a reward for that?
Like I said earlier, no. Not at all. If there's a God, I'm perfectly happy to just cease to exist after I die. That's what I think is going to happen anyway. I wouldn't care. I'd be gone. Perfectly fine. No, what I want is much more realistic, although still a long shot, which is for people like you to either stop believing all this nonsense completely, or at least cut this fantasy of torture of the wrong thinkers out of your belief system so the world can be a marginally less hate-filled and torture-approving place. Or if you're not even good enough for that, at least stop acting like you're entitled to any respect from the people you wish would suffer eternally just for disagreeing with you.
You want to be rewarded for that? You feel God can't be mad? You feel that you could get mad at whatever when wrong is done to you, but God can't get mad when wrong is done to him, when you do him wrong?
He can feel however he likes, I don't care. But do you remember all that stuff you said before about how crimes do and should have consequences? Well, if someone does wrong to you, like for example, shits on your carpet, and you drag them out to a cabin in the woods and torture them as long as you can until they die, what do you think we call that? Maybe that's not clear enough for you, so I'll tell you. We call it a crime. We call it an incredibly heinous crime. By we, I mean you and me specifically. I'm sure that you think this too. We don't call it a just consequence for the action of shitting on your carpet, Emmanuel. Very few people are going to think that the fact that the victim shat on your carpet vindicates you. Do you know why justice is depicted as holding scales? Because humans tend to see the justness of a punishment as related to how it balances against the crime. But there's no infinitely heinous crime a human can commit. A human cannot inflict an infinite amount of pain on another person. And just genuinely not believing that Jesus was real, or that he was really the savior, or that there's a God, why would that be a crime at all? There's no victim you can point to, God isn't hurt by it, and yet here you are defending the torturer by insisting that the torture was okay because the victim's minor or non-existent crime required a consequence. Doesn't matter what the consequence was, it was a consequence.
He can't get mad, he can't have wrath, are you kidding me? Read Revelations.
Again, I don't care how he feels. There's nothing wrong with feeling a certain way. Everybody feels. We're talking about what he does based on those feelings. You're not even capable of keeping track of what you're saying here, are you? I guess if you ever watch this, then I won't expect you to understand what I'm saying.
His wrath is being stored up in 7 vials that will be poured out into this world by 7 angels when the end of times come.
So the question was, is it okay for God to feel wrath? And your answer is, he does. You just forgot what you were talking about 2 sentences ago, dude.
When the apocalypse come, I don't know when that's going to come. I'm not the Christian who's going to tell you Jesus is coming soon. Jesus could come back whenever he wants to. All right, we'll get into that later. But again, God gave us free will to choose. I feel like it's a silly reason to sit here and say that you don't care about God, don't believe in God because he created hell.
At this point, you're really not in a good position to be criticizing anyone else for having silly reasons for things, but yeah, that would be a silly reason to say you don't believe, sure. If that were the whole argument, but of course it rarely is. The people who come to their disbelief this way are typically the sort of Christians who believe in a God that Christians themselves chose to define as one who is both all-loving and who created a hell knowing people would go there forever, in which case it's perfectly reasonable to say, but if God loves everyone so much, he wouldn't want any of us to suffer so badly, but he also created hell and the rules by which you go there, so he contradicts himself. God wouldn't contradict himself, so maybe this combination of traits is just a human idea. And once they realize that, they no longer believe in your God, the all-loving torture monster, and maybe that also starts a train of thought that can eventually lead to disbelief in any version of a God after they've considered some other issues. What I'm saying is it's not as simple as you're putting it forth here.
Because he knows that there's consequences. He knows that if you do good things happen. If you do bad things happen. I felt like that was common sense to people. I thought that in this world, if you are a criminal, you go to jail, right? I believe that if someone does wrong to you, you'd probably be mad. You'd probably be flustered.
Oh, flustered. I'm agitated and confused. Yeah, when I get flustered, my first reaction is to toss my flusterer into a fucking vat of acid. Because that's fine.
If someone decided to take a poop on your white carpet or disobey the rules of your house and violate your crib or your parents or your family or whoever, you'd want that person away, right? You'd probably want consequences to happen to that person. I ain't telling y'all anything violent.
Of course you are. What you're telling us is that the appropriate response is to send them to hell, which is just shorthand for inflict the most extreme violence you're capable of upon them. Why would you think it's a problem if people's response is violent anyway? What, is there something wrong with humans reacting violently when they feel slighted or flustered? But then it's right for God to act infinitely more violently because why? You didn't make an argument for it. You didn't even seem to notice it's a problem. You just take it for granted. No thought given to it.
But I'm saying consequences would happen to that person who chose to wild out like that in life, right? And you're going to tell me that's the reason you don't believe in God? Because there's consequences? Because he said choose this and you'll get that, or choose that and you'll end up here? That's your reason?
I doubt that's many people's reason. That's a pretty silly reason. Although some people might disbelieve because of the inconsistency of a purely loving being doing such a hateful thing, which isn't a bad reason. That's actually a really good one, at least for that version of a God. But considering how limited your capacity to distinguish between obviously distinct concepts seems to be, I'm guessing you don't even see the difference.
God bless you guys. I love you guys. God bless you. If you're the person I'm talking to right now, really think about that, because God made us in his likeness.
Likeness. The word is likeness. Just to help you out going forward, crack open a Bible once in a while.
God made us in his look, right? That's inside, outside.
Wait, outside? So God's not some formless being? He actually looks like a human on the outside? So literally an old man in the sky.
The same way you get mad, he gets mad.
I don't get mad like that. I have a daughter, and I would never in a million years get so mad at her that I would torture her. If you think that's so fucking unjust of me, so be it. How the hell do you say something like wanting to torture the people I love is just a thing that happens when I get mad, and not hate yourself? How do you do it?
The same way he has rules in this world, which is his house. Everything he created is his house, is his.
Wait, it's all his house? Then if I'm out in the woods, where am I supposed to shit? Wait, white carpet you said, so it's okay as long as it's not in the snow? Is that?
If you have rules in your house, don't be mad he has rules in his. If in order for you to give your all to someone and reward them and etc., they have to be a good, important person in your life and things like that, don't be mad when it's the same for God.
I don't want to fucking marry God, Emmanuel. I just don't think it's very loving to torture people. I know I keep repeating this over and over and over to the point that it's even annoying me, but that's only because you keep saying the same dumb shit and completely missing the point just as often. Anyway, to be honest, if I were all-powerful, I wouldn't just not be horrifically cruel to people, but I'd actually use my power to give pretty much everyone a nice life. Not as a reward, mind you, but just because most of the people I don't know, and even the people who've wronged me in some way, I care about enough to think that they deserve that. And it costs me nothing, because I have infinite power, and really to just make the world a nicer place. Maybe people would be less shitty to each other. And you know, even the people I really hate, even if I hated them enough to not give them anything, I still wouldn't even consider creating a fucking hell to toss them into, dude. Because frankly, if I let myself become the kind of person who would consider that, I'd be the first person I'd want to toss in.
Do not sit there and point the finger at God and tell him this is why I won't follow you when you sitting there doing the same thing.
What? Excuse me? Do you have any evidence of that? That's defamation, sir. I don't even have a basement. I live in an apartment. Everyone in the building would hear the screams.
when the world does the same thing.
My ass it does. ISIS tried to that one time. Did you see that video where they stuck that guy in the cage and burned him to death? But all they managed to achieve was 0% of what you think God does. Every human action has a finite duration. You're not going to manage to equate it with an infinitely long one, dumbass.
Well, a criminal, if he does wrong, goes to jail. Where if someone violates your house, you probably kick them out. And you want to do whatever you want, disobey God, go against his word, go against everything that he is, go against his tabernacle, go against his commandments, and then you want to be rewarded with the kingdom of God, with the kingdom of heaven?
No, oh my God. For the zillionth time, I just don't want to be surrounded by people who think other people should be burned forever while awake and screaming just because they're not like you. It's not complicated, it's pretty fucking simple. I don't believe in your God. I don't think it exists. In fact, I think it doesn't exist. I don't give a flying fuck about your fake prizes. All I want is for the real world to suck less, and your attitude is a huge reason for the amount that it sucks. Cut the shit. Stop dreaming about other people's suffering, asshole.
Okay. Because that makes sense, alright.
Pro tip, that kind of sarcasm only works well when what you said actually makes sense. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for sticking with me, everybody. Sometimes I have to go back to the topic of hell just to get my blood pressure up for a change, although, to be honest, unlike some people I've responded to on this subject who I think should know better, this guy at least doesn't seem quite smart enough for that, so I have trouble getting too mad at him. I found it fun. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, that's real helpful. If you want more of my videos, subscribe, and if you really like them, consider supporting me on Patreon like all these great people on the screen, and I'll see you next time.